Hello and a very warm welcome back to the AFC Newsday channel. My name's Dan George. His name's Matt, and we're back for another episode after an incredible result against Manchester City in the Premier League. Arsenal winning 1-0 on the night. What a crazy game. Matt, my friend, how are you? You well, mate?
Yeah, pretty good, thank you. Elated from that, that's for sure. How are you, my friend? I know you went to that game, which is pretty spectacular.
Yeah, mate. No, it was a great game. It was a great game to go to. Absolutely loved it. I went with my, Raf, the boy himself. Shout out to Raf. What a guy. I'm absolutely buzzing. And I can see he's in the chat as well already. But I met up with Yembele. Had a good chat with Yem. Oh man, it's great to see. It was great to see Yem there. Yem, I hope you're well. I don't know how much of tonight's episode you can stick around for, but whatever. It's great to see him in the chat, and it was an incredible day. And yeah, mate, honestly, a crazy result. For anyone watching, if you're watching on Twitter, if you're watching on YouTube, please make sure to subscribe if you're not already. We really do appreciate the support. Drop a like on the video. It's great to have more people join the channel, join the hive. Lots of stuff coming here on AFC Newsday that's really exciting. So please do stick around to be part of it. It would be much appreciated by myself and Matt. Matt, I'm aware that I'm looking incredibly tired and flustered on the screen, but I've just had a crazy long day at work, so I can only apologise to everyone watching. But always great to be here on AFC Newsday. Matt, let's talk about the game then, because we're not going to go too deep into things here tonight. But it was, you watched from home. I still haven't had a chance to rewatch it, but to me, it seemed like a game of chess at times. It was really quite, no one really gave too much away. No one went for it too crazy, and then it just came down to one moment, one really decisive move, and then a little bit of luck with the finish in the end. But from your perspective, watching it at home, what did you make of the game, and did you think it was really also such a kind of cagey affair?
Yeah, I absolutely think so. I think the thing is as well, when you watch it from home, I feel like you can be swayed by more narratives than just the game you're watching. For example, commentators, the bearings they have, even if it's not intentional, they'll slightly sway your perception in certain areas without you really realizing. Whereas when you're at the ground, you see what you see, you hear what others see potentially, but that's it. You can't have any perception swayed. So it was definitely a very cagey game, very chess-like, as you say. I think, or I'd like to think, the days of getting thumped by City are behind us, particularly at the Emirates. You'd like to think away as well. Obviously, that game at the end of the season with the circumstances and such. But back-to-back games now against City, which are incredibly low scoring, very few chances, and ironically, back-to-back deflection goals, which is which has pretty much won Arsenal both games. Obviously, the Community Shield where Leo Trossard's finish cannoned off, I'm not sure who, and went in the net.
One of the defenders, yeah.
Yeah, I want to say Diaz, but I can't remember. And then penalties, we won on that. And then, of course, on Sunday just gone, Gabriel Martinelli's deflected effort hit Nathan Ake's head, I believe, and cannoned in the other corner. I thought the shot was quite good. And this is a bit off topic, but I'd love to see a technology in the future. I'm not sure how possible this is. I think it would just be unbelievable if you could see a technology where you get an idea of how the shot would go without, if it didn't hit a deflected player. Because I think there's so many top goals which could just be going straight top corner and they'll deflect the other way and they'll still go in. But of course, you want to see the top goal.
Absolutely,
Goals.
Matt.
I think Martinelli hit it really well, but
we've lost you a little bit there, mate. I don't know if your connection's just slightly gone out a bit, but stick with us, Matt. But I think it'll be valid. I think you can kind of get an idea from the angles behind the goal to see if it was going in or not. But yeah, definitely, I don't see why not. Crazy game, and I spoke to cheeky plug, shameless plug, but I spoke to Theo Walcott on Monday. And
I don't want to hear shameless plug. I want to hear big that up, man.
No. Chill out.
Everyone checking that out. It's amazing. No, obviously, how much he means to you, but to me as well. I absolutely love that guy. So incredible,
no, of course,
incredible
mate,
thing
of course.
for you.
But my point was, linking to that, you can watch it as my pinned tweet if you want to check it out. But my point to that was that he did mention that Arsenal, I think, maybe rattled a few nerves. Manchester City players just seemed a little bit unsettled at the end. Kyle Walker, just really did seem a little bit, not they're not used to losing, are they? So it was really quite interesting and exciting as well to see Manchester City players having a bit of beef with um, some of the Arsenal staff. But yeah, crazy game. As emotionally crazy for the neutral, I can understand why it wasn't, but to live every single moment, I think especially the second half was much more exciting. But um, yeah, brilliant game to be a part of, and the limbs in the North Bank were absolutely mental. And
Gonna say that
yeah,
must have been
honestly, myself and Raf were there. Yem was there. Yem, I know you're watching at the moment, but I hope you were safe after. You made it out safe after those limbs. But there was paramedics. Matt had to be called as well to someone from after the goal. There were people running, and someone had to get
wow.
helped over the barrier and walked off to the side because of limbs. It was hectic, man.
Question
Um,
is, was there movement with the rose?
Yeah, well, there was with some people. Some people just ran down, but I think myself and Raf and one of my friends we were sat right behind the goal that Martinelli scored in, and I think we must have swapped seats for about five people. Um, yeah, it was crazy. You're hugging random people you've never met in your life before, just sat around you, and honestly, it was crazy. Yeah, Yem's just saying that he saw it as well, and hoped the person was okay from there. But honestly, the limbs were crazy. Um, and an incredible moment. Great to be there for that. Anyone watching, if you're watching on Twitter, if you're watching on YouTube, please make sure to subscribe. If you're watching on AFC Newsday, you can follow us. It'll be great to have you to stick around for the journey here at AFC Newsday. If you can follow us on You can follow us on our personals, and if you want to subscribe on YouTube as well, that's always really appreciated. We'll have loads of content here going forwards. But Matt, do you kind of how do you see the season so far? We've come to an international break. It's an opportunity to reflect. How do you see the season so far? What have you made of it? And now that we've kind of seen Arsenal gradually progress and performance levels increase, and I think start to have a bit more control on the games, players coming back to fitness. What do you make of it so far?
It's a really good question, and we've discussed season so far quite a few times on this stream already. I think we did it with the previous international break. We're only 8 games in, and we've had 2 international breaks, which is a bit crazy in itself, but that's how it is. And I think it's been interesting. I think the points we've accumulated is very good, and the fact we're still unbeaten. We've played Manchester City, we've played high flying Spurs, and we've played Man United at home. All three at home, ironically, somewhere where we've been a bit more vulnerable in recent times, which is a bit chaotic that the first clean sheet of the season came against Manchester City, which makes zero sense. But anyways, we digress. It's hard to say. I think it's pretty clear we have a lot of levels to go up, and there's been question marks potentially over areas in the team or areas with how things are going, goal scoring wise. But I think the best way to put it is you look at Arsenal defensively now, and they are just so, so solid. You look at Declan Rice, for me, my man the match against Manchester City, the tackle on Nunes, which has done the rounds,
Do
the
you know what
tackle.
that when he made that tackle? I was obviously when you're sat lower, like closer to the pitch. I'm sure Yem can kind of appreciate this too. When you sat lower to the pitch, you get less of a kind of appreciation for how far along some people are, and you're on the same level as the players when you sat you know low down on the pitch. And I just saw Declan Rice make that tackle, and I looked at Michael Oliver expecting him to blow up for a foul, and then I saw it wasn't. I was like, oh my word, he actually got the ball. That was crazy, honestly. um that tackle was insane. And
But some mobility as well, by the way, because he's not just made the tackle, he's made the tackle and he's got up instantly and played the ball to an Arsenal player, which is it's small things. And for anyone watching, don't think we're crazy. It's small things which make the real big difference. You can make a great tackle and then just not get the ball, or you give away a foul, as you said, probably a yellow card. And I don't think Rice has he picked up a booking so far this season? I don't think he has,
I'm not
unless if
sure.
there's some
I'll have a
maybe
look,
for
and you
dissent
keep talking.
or perfect. But it doesn't seem like that's been the case. Not like Kovacic, as Yem said,
Oh
which
yeah.
is definitely a talking point we'll get into shortly as well. Well, I mean, I don't think there's much talking about it. I think it's just plain and simple. But anyhow, I think Declan Rice was brilliant, and the out of possession side of things is so exciting. I think it was John McKenzie from The Athletic. I want to say, I might be wrong, who said Arsenal are now the best out of possession team in the world, pretty much.
Mm.
Maybe, I think it was him who said that. And a few weeks ago, people sometimes see stats like that. They're like, or not stats, like opinions like that. They're like, okay, well, what does that mean, or what does that do? But every time you watch Arsenal and you watch them defend a transition, it's just abundantly clear how important and how crucial that is. And, people can say what they want about Haaland being out of form or whatever, or City not having Rodri, or City not having De Bruyne. But we didn't have Bukayo Saka. We had Gabriel Martinelli half fit off the bench. We had Thomas Partey come on later on. These are key players for us as well. And of course, the narrative wasn't the same back end of the season, which is pretty typical. But
Mm.
anyhow, it just says a lot really about how Arsenal dealt with that Man City team, limiting a Pep Guardiola team to their fewest shots since he's been at Man City. I think it was 4, which is pretty incredible. And 2 of them came in the first few minutes when there was a bit of uncertainty, let's say, when Nathan Ake had a shot which could have scored, and then of course the header which Declan Rice cleared off the line. But generally speaking, out of possession, really exciting. Defensively, as good as any. And offensively, there's levels to go up. And there are a few players who also haven't been in the best of forms to the start of the season. But that happens. It's a learning thing as well, playing a deep block or a team as deep as any team we play. There was a stat that we faced the deepest teams out of anyone in Europe. And that's not something you can just adapt to overnight, in my opinion. Of course, Arsenal can prepare for it, but really playing a team who just sits so deep is not it's not an easy thing to face every week. So I think adapting to
No.
that more and more, having Bukayo Saka fit fully, Gabriel Martinelli fit fully, and having Gabriel Jesus fit fully alongside everyone else will just be brilliant, because the attacking side of things has been where we've lacked so far this season. But of course, injuries have enabled that things haven't been as smooth. And I'm not naive. Of course, injuries are they're part and parcel of the game, and particularly nowadays, it's almost like you can't expect to not have injuries. You can't say, oh, we have this squad with our best players fit, because players will always be injured. That's how it is. But it's important that we keep those top players fit if we want to go all the way. So I went on a bit of a tangent there, but Dan, how do you feel about the season so far, and what would you fancy Arsenal's chances of going really big?
Well, absolutely, mate. And I will answer your question in a second, but we touched on it a second ago. I do just want to look at Declan Rice's stats. He's had no yellow cards so far this season, as you
Brilliant.
said. He's only actually made 3 fouls so far for a defensive midfielder, which is crazy. 8 appearances, 6 wins, 0 losses at the moment, 2 draws. And just some of his stats. I mean, unfortunately, I haven't had time to prepare some, beautiful slides for you this week. But just to talk you through some of his stats so far, his tackle success rate is 67%, which is, very, very good. He's made 13 interceptions, 10 clearances so far. This is over the whole season. 3 headed clearances, 35 recoveries, 33 duels won, 3 successful 50-50s. I mean, some of these are just numbers. Another one, a really important one, errors leading to goals, 0, absolutely nothing. Just defensively and also offensively, he's just been so good. Just looking through some of his, passes per match, 62.8. I mean, you can't really take much from that, but just if you do just kind of generally look at Declan Rice so far, I can't think of another signing that Arsenal have made that's come in and hit the ground running like he has. Like, he's the perfect player.
I think the
I don't know.
important thing is it's in a sustainable manner as well. So, for example, no disrespect to him, because we all thought he was the second coming of Kante, but when Lucas Torreira stepped foot in London Colney and had 6 or 7 man the matches in a row, we thought we've got the next big thing. But it's important with Declan Rice. It's not just a thing that he's been, for me, Arsenal's player of the season, and has been almost man the match in pretty much every game bar the one he had to come off in. But it's a very sustainable thing, because he's just a genuinely top player. And it's not just what money can buy you. It's the availability of a player like that is so rare, and it's so integral that Arsenal made that signing and have now closed the gap even further to the likes of Man City, and can resurrect where they went wrong last season.
I think that's what it's about as well. And you go through Arsenal's squad, and over previous years, there's always been one player. There's been one player that's been superb, and they carried Arsenal, and they've taken the headlines. And whether that has been Alexis Sanchez or Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang, you know, some of these players have
Your
carried the team at
Ozils,
times.
your Ramses, your
Ozils.
Wilshires, Fabregas. There's so
Yeah, I
many.
mean, I wouldn't put Wilshere and Ramsey. I'd say maybe in the same sort of category where but there's
Oh
there's
yeah,
there's
true.
been
Yeah,
areas when there's been just one player who's been superb. I think Aubameyang and Sanchez are the main ones that come to mind
yeah.
of
I got
recent
you more
years.
so. Yeah, that's
Yeah, but like they've really carried the team and they've been arguably world class. But with this team at the moment, I think you could go through almost the whole team and think like they're you know top two in their position in the whole Premier League. I mean, you can go through it now. I mean, Ben White, maybe not necessarily top two, but in and around there,
I think he's
definitely in the top
right up there, to be
right.
honest.
Yeah, like top right backs in the Premier League. William Saliba, absolutely no question at all. Gabriel's definitely in the top realm of centre backs within the Premier League. Zinchenko is a very good left back, maybe not necessarily the best in the Premier League, but he's a top player. You go into midfield, Declan Rice, defensive midfielder, he's right in there in my opinion. I think Roger is absolutely incredible, but I'd put Declan Rice. I'm not going to say, oh yeah, no, Rice is better than Rodri, but I'm going to say because I don't know enough about Rodri, but I'm going to say he's definitely in the conversation on par. This in my opinion, level wise with Rodri, and longer term, I think he can go on to be potentially even better. Looking through other positions in the midfield, Martin Odegaard, absolutely. That left eight role, maybe not as much because other people have been coming in and out. But the front line speaks for itself. Bukayo Saka, Gabriel Martinelli, definitely. Top two in my opinion. In their position in the Premier League,
We're
and
not even talking in the Premier League here either.
yeah,
It's
you could say in the
global.
world as well. Bukayo Saka and Gabriel Martinelli absolutely in the top bracket of wingers in the world at the moment. And just to have that is just incredible. And Mikel Arteta is starting to get his flowers, and it's huge. It's huge, and it's just I'm struggling to get my head around it as well because we've always been used
Getting a
to
bit
Arsenal having.
emotional.
No, I'm not getting emotional, Matt. Calm down, mate. Calm down. But I've always been used to there being one player or two players or a few. But all of a sudden, the whole team is incredible, and to be able to beat Manchester City like Arsenal did, is just. I think the start potentially of a momentum shift, and of course you've got to take into account City didn't have Haaland. Sorry, they didn't have De Bruyne. They didn't have Rodri. They lost Gundogan in the summer, a huge loss, and they will recoup. I think some players in January. I think they will, get other players of similar potential levels in those positions. But and they will be stronger. But I do think it's the start of a momentum shift potentially in the Premier League, where Arsenal can absolutely challenge Manchester City in the next years to come for the title, I think. And it's incredibly optimistic at the moment, Matt,
I
isn't it,
think,
in North
yeah,
London?
it couldn't be better, could it? Really, this is some of the best Arsenal teams people have seen of their lifetimes. Definitely mine. I mean, got into football late, but I think one thing as well which resonates with me with when you say that it's not an individual carrying anymore; it's a collective effort. Is I feel like pretty much every time Arsenal win a game, I'm like, you were good, you were good, you were good, you were good, you were good. Every time Arsenal lose a game, I'm like, we didn't really turn up today. It's rare for me that we turn up as a collective and go lose the game because at our best or at a very high level, there's pretty much no one better than us, obviously, other than your cities and such. And talking of, some of the top players we have, you mentioned that Saliba was his man the match, or said he was his man the match on Sunday against Man City. Obviously, you saw it from the ground. I don't know if you've seen it back yet. The actual game. I don't know if you plan to. But
I
what did you
haven't
make
yet.
of William Saliba? Obviously, he was brilliant as well in the Community Shield, which is
Ridiculous,
great.
mate. Absolutely ridiculous. Like this guy is stupidly good. Um, I just think that the physicality that he shows is just so good, and he's got the same. You've got to give Gabriel his flowers too because he's been
100%.
superb. But I think Saliba just the way that he mixes his physicality, with his on the ball ability as well. He's so calm on the ball, so able on the ball, and I just think he's a superb player and someone who just really has been a steal for Arsenal. You think how much they paid for him, and the fact they nearly lost him as well. Um, Again, it's another thing. These contracts with these players. Years ago, Arsenal wouldn't be keeping players like this. They'd be going on to other teams. But keeping Saliba, keeping Odegaard, keeping other teams as other players as well. It's just so good. And Saliba was absolutely immense, and Gabriel too. On Sunday, and for me, I just incredibly happy to see him doing so well after everything that happened, and I do hope that long term his future's at Arsenal. And it's nice now. I think, Matt, for this international break, there's a few players that have got injuries, and it will be nice, won't it, to give some of them a chance to really reset, recover, and then the next 2 weeks, Bukayo Saka as well, withdrawing from international duty. It'll be good for him to get some rest, and Leandro Trossard, hopefully. Saliba's got a little toe injury. Gabriel Martinelli, 45 minutes, but he was touch and go whether he'd play anyway. But
I thought I'd say, yeah, on him.
It'll be
The
nicer,
quotes,
won't it?
we don't have the exact quotes up from it, but I remember hearing Arteta's quotes after the game and seeing them, I think, with a separate quote to Arsenal. It was just amazing to see, because it just demonstrates Martinelli's mentality so much. It was very much a case of, doctors were saying, you're not getting back for City, it's too optimistic type thing. And he was like, nope, like I'm there for City. Half time, Trossard has, I think, that same hamstring injury or is carrying something. And who's there waiting to come on? Gabriel Martinelli. And I have to say, when Martinelli did come on, when I saw him come on, I was like, I've got a sudden light. I was like, okay, we've got to half time and we brought on our best outlet. And
Yeah.
before we go on to that page, I just want to answer as well what you were saying, how important it is for Arsenal to tie down all their best players and the international side of things for players resting. I think it's quite funny to think that when Arsenal was struggling or finishing 8th or whatever you want to call it, I was almost like, please put Arsenal players in the international squads. I want to see them do well. I want to see people realise that we do have some top players in amongst players who aren't quite good enough for the club. And now it's a complete opposite outlook, because everyone knows that, most of our players are right up there, as we discussed. But back to Gabriel Martinelli, I was going to ask a question to you of what do you think won Arsenal the game against City? And of course, it was the fortunate enough deflection. But I think the answer is just simple, and it's Gabriel Martinelli. And as I say, I think Rice was man of the match, followed by the two centre-backs who did a magnificent job keeping Haaland and co quiet. But you have one player who just wanted to take the game by the scruff of the neck. We didn't really create too much in that first half. It was quite ball to feet, quite predictable. Gabriel Jesus had a really, really good game, to be fair.
Huge, mate, huge.
Gvardiol was definitely struggling in that aspect. And as the game went on, that became even more apparent. But what you have with Gabriel Martinelli is you allow Jesus to be a bit more isolated, because he was the only proper, wing threat, if you will, on Sunday. No disrespect to Leo. He's just not that type of outlet type of player. And when Martinelli comes on, within minutes, I'm sure, the North Bank was erupting just by small things he's done.
It was 100%. And, as soon as he came on, he had a burst of pace down that left-hand side, beat his man, and, had a shot on target straight at Ederson. It went straight into his arms, but it was immediately being able to see that, that electric pace that he's got, and just beating his man. And, just something like that really does it also sets a precedent for being able to, in the defender's mind, in the back of his mind, he's thinking, okay, like, he's got the pace to beat me here. I need to be a bit more careful. I can't go forward as much, when I've got someone like him who can run in behind me. And yeah, absolutely, mate. I think he was from the second he came on, he was huge. And I just hope that he can, mate, I think it's just absolutely the impact Martinelli has and how good he is in this Arsenal team has gone under the radar a bit, I think, at the start of the season, because, as soon as you take him out of the team, you realise how much you miss his pace, his directness, and his willingness to take a man on. So, yeah, I think he was huge, mate, and it was great to see him back out there. Yes, no, I don't know if there's much more you wanted to chat about, Matt, mate.
Yeah,
We don't have too much time, but anyone
I
watching
think
on Twitter or watching on YouTube, please make sure you are following us, subscribed. All support is much appreciated. So please do stick around if you want more Arsenal content. Just a short one today, but we will be back, of course, as soon as we can with another live stream after the international break. Because I'm sure, Matt, you'll want to do an in-depth analysis into England's big game against Australia and whoever
I'm
they're
prepping
playing.
myself, mentally
Yeah,
prepping now. I think as well, just a few other topics, more
go for
smaller
it.
type topics, but more player, individual. The first one is quite a while ago, but when you said not like Kovacic is a joke. I don't think there's much debate here. I don't think we'll have much debate. Obviously, he got a yellow card initially, went to VAR, but they decided it was a yellow card, and then he came cruising into Declan Rice and didn't come off the pitch. And I think I don't mind personally. This might be a bit controversial. I don't mind him not sending him off there and then. But the problem is, I think the reason he's not sending him off is because he doesn't want to ruin the occasion of the game, which I don't mind, as I say, but it's not because it's the right call. But
Flipping
then
heck,
when the
mate.
second yellow comes, that's just
Pelter
for
him
the
now.
red card.
Pelter him now.
That's just for the red card challenge. Because
Yeah.
as I say, you don't want to run huge games. But at the end of the day, a red card's a red card. You've got to give a red card. But I understand why it wasn't given that aspect. But it's honestly, do you know New Star Soccer when you've got a shady character approaches you before the game, to play bad? Honestly, it felt like Kovacic wanted to get sent off because a minute after that tackle, nowhere near the ball, he came cruising in to Declan Rice.
Yeah.
When
Yeah.
when I saw Oliver do this instantly, I lost my head. I've got to be honest. If I think you being in the stadium, a lot of the time you're like, oh,
I didn't
everything's going
realize. I
against
I didn't
us.
realize at the time, mate. To be honest, I just saw him go crashing in, and I was like, he's probably not going to. I think a lot of people, unless you were close to the incident, I think a lot of people just went, oh, next one, and he's off. I didn't actually realize how late it was.
That's the thing with how it is in the stadium, particularly when you are lower down. When you see it on TV, it's as clear as day. You've got an instant reaction. Whereas when you're in the stadium, you almost feel like the ref's against you every single game. If they don't give something, which is a completely clean tackle, but everyone's calling for a free kick, booing, you're not fit to whatever. It is classic. But I think that was just worth discussing. It's nice also though that not we didn't rely on a red card from City because that wouldn't have been the case anyhow. But it's nice that narrative isn't existing either. But two other talking points I'd like your opinion on. First of all, is Kai Havertz. Obviously, there's been a lot of discourse about the man on here and on Twitter and on social media and among Arsenal fans, among football fans. He's played 3 games as a number 9, one in the Community Shield against, of course, Man City, one against PSV. I can't remember if it was the whole game or he was just playing stints in that game, and one, of course, when he came on Sunday. How do you feel about Kai Havertz? And I also want to kind of line that up with how do you feel about a number 9 in January based off what you've seen Kai Havertz do? Do you think it's something where Kai Havertz can do the short-term job or do the potentially long-term job? Or do you think it's a case of it's limited minutes and you kind of just got to see from there?
Yeah, no, I like him. I like him up front. I like Kai Havertz up front. I think he offers. I mean, I said it on here before. I think he offers something different that um, the other strikers don't within the football club. I think he's that physical presence, isn't he? And Arsenal were struggling a little bit with David Raya in the first half, and I thought he was much improved in the second. But having that option to fire it long up towards Havertz is something that is a nice option to have, in my opinion. I think it'll be good if you can have Kai Havertz on the pitch to fire it up to, and he's someone that can hold the ball up really well. We saw that in the Manchester City game in the Community Shield. I thought he was 50% of his game was superb in that with his back to goal. It was just the other way round when he's facing goal that he lacks confidence. But I think I slowly do see development within Kai Havertz, and I think, like we said with VM in the previous episode, I think we just need to give him towards the end of the season, and then you just you take it from there, don't you?
Yeah, I agree with that. I think it's just also a valid topic because you look at, a lot of rumors or a lot of what people are saying. regarding, a number 9 chat. Ivan Toney's been the hottest name to be linked.
Ivan
And
Toney, is that what you're calling him?
Ivan Toney, suit
Ivan.
yourself, mate. Suit
No,
yourself.
just checking, mate.
But yeah, I think it's just an interesting one because at the minute it's kind of establishing that he's the number 9. He's not the midfielder, or he plays a lot better as a 9, which is very normal for someone who's not played as a midfielder really in a big way ever, other than at Leverkusen at times. He's always been that second striker or as a sole number 9 at Chelsea, playing off Timo Werner and such. So that is an interesting one. And just a final small talking point, as we say, it's a bit of a shorter one, but just worth talking about. I was going to discuss David Raya, but you've kind of already done that. Started a bit shaky, but had a really good second half. Transfer window. January transfer window. Timber, obviously, we don't know when he'll be back. Hopefully soon, but obviously all, speediest recoveries to him without rushing him back or anything like that. And yeah, what do you think transfer window wise? Obviously, there's been links to Pedro Neto, a few others. What would you like Arsenal to do more position wise than anything? If there's any names, of course, feel free.
Yeah, I mean, well, as we draw closer, we will do eventually a January transfer window special. So anyone watching, anyone tuned in at the moment, watching back, then please make sure you subscribe to keep an eye out for that January transfer window special when it comes out, because we will speak to a lot of people on that. So, but yeah, no, I do think, I won't go into it too much, but I think right wing is a position, that would be really good. And, Pedro Neto's been someone that's been branded around a lot. Ivan Toney is someone for up front potentially, but I think how much of that is actually just agent talk trying to put their player in the shop window. We'll wait and see. But I think definitely attacking wise, Arsenal can add to their ranks and maybe a centre back, depending on Mikel Arteta's confidence in Jakub Kiwior to step in if one of the others can't play. So yeah, no, I think potentially a few attackers, and we'll see from there, Matthew. But my friend, it's been brilliant to chat to you. Just a short one today. Thank you very much for everyone tuned in, anyone watching back. Really appreciate your support on the channel. Please do make sure to subscribe if you can. Greatly appreciated by us all. If you're watching on Twitter or X, then make sure to follow us as well on AFC Newsday. Matt, any last words?
Finally breaking the curse against City in the league. We discussed the record before was 12 losses in a row, which is pretty hideous, but it had to be broken eventually, and fine margins have stopped it before, but it's finally broken and we can carry on with the rest of our season, and hopefully international break doesn't go on for too long in our minds without it just being a few weeks, because Stamford Bridge awaits, which I'm sure we'll do a preview for.
We will do a preview for it, so make sure you subscribe to check that out when it arrives. And I think I enjoyed getting a City fan's perspective on the last one, Matt. So we might actually try and find a Chelsea fan from somewhere to get them on. If you can find one these days.
Not sure there's any left. No,
they're all in hiding at the moment. They're all underground somewhere, hiding. But to be fair, a few of them came out of hiding after that big win for them last weekend. But I look forward to Arsenal hopefully putting Chelsea back in their place. But Matt, it's been a pleasure as always. Anyone watching, please make sure to subscribe, like the channel, like the video. Please feel free to share it if you enjoyed it. If you want to, pass it on to anyone else to watch as well. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll catch you again very soon.